When does frugal cross the line to cheapskate? Story 1. When they won't chip in for a birthday cake, but demand a slice. Warning, long rant incoming. In a previous job, I organized cakes for people's birthdays. Voluntary to have a cake on your birthday. Some people did opt out. That's cool. Also voluntary to donate for cake. What wasn't cool was everyone chipping in $2 for said cake, and this one shrew, who I shall call Big Shrewy Bertha, BBB for short. Yeah, I'm saying B. You know what the word shrew is standing in for. You know. BBB had worked there for years. Same role, same daily tasks. You know the type. BBB believed that her seniority afforded her perks. She never paid for a damn cake. BBB would be first in line for a slice, though. A big slice. AKA twice the size of everyone else. So I monitored for 4 cakes, but BBB didn't give me a cent. I discreetly asked around if this was normal for her. Was she experiencing hardship? Nope. BBB has always been like this. So I waited. Next cake, I sent the usual email, but also included, to ensure everyone who contributes receives a piece of cake, I will be noting who donates. You're still welcome to come sing happy birthday, but if money isn't received by X date, you will be unable to have cake. Then the glorious day came. BBB made a beeline for me. Swear that shrew could smell cake from the car park. We sang happy birthday, then I started cutting. I had my list. Those people got their first pieces. Birthday people get to decide what was done with the leftovers, because there would be leftovers. BBB pushed into the front of the line. Me. BBB, you didn't donate, so no cake for you. Sorry. Sickly sweet smile on my face. BBB, I need my cake now. I have important things to do. I'll give you money later. Me, that's not going to work. I brought this cake with the budget of donated money. Side note, I would chip in my own cash if donations were low. BBB, this is not appropriate. This is discrimination. I'm reporting you to my manager. Me, okay, do what you need to do. Please move aside or get back to your important work. BBB storms off hollering about cake and discrimination. Cut to 4 hours later, I'm called into a meeting with the BBB's boss, my boss, and the boss for the entire site. To summarize, BBB accused me of discrimination based on her weight. I shamed her by not giving her cake. It was then I produced my email, which they were all on, the spreadsheet where I had noted who paid and when, and the cake recipe. Those 4 cakes I monitored, I'd done the same thing. I'd love to say the bosses collectively tore BBB a new one and she was on thin ice. They didn't, and she wasn't. There was, however, an email sent to everyone advising that from now on, when people gave me a donation for a cake, they also need to sign next to it. Then, once the due date had passed, I was to scan and email it to management. I did this for 3 glorious years. It was a pain in the butt for everyone concerned, but BBB never ate free cake on my watch. No one gave her a piece from their leftovers. It became an unwritten part of induction. I've been out of the company for over 10 years. BBB is still there. So are some of my friends. Shrew still doesn't get free cake. It's fun to know that you have left your mark on a company even long after you've left. After 10 years, she's still there? Does she have any plans for her career or any goals or anything? Or just be a mooch for the rest of her life? Does she mooch on free food and other stuff? Story 2. I had a roommate who was very practical. She picked up any change she found, even just pennies. She opted for cheaper options on anything where it didn't significantly diminish the quality. She even built a tiny house because she didn't believe that she really needed to spend much on a place to live. It worked well for her. Then there was my other roommate. Conveniently, at the same time, all three of us were living together. Aside from thieving, getting actual furniture from the literal dumpster, and a whole bunch of other goodies, the story of how I came to live with him is probably the best story to showcase his nature. There was him and two other guys living in the apartment before I moved in. There was another friend of theirs staying on the couch while he was looking for a job and a place to live. He was staying there for free. No biggie. I was homeless at this point and had been sleeping in my car in the middle of winter, below freezing at night, so I jumped at the opportunity to sleep indoors, even if it meant having to sleep in an uninsulated garage. I could just toss on a few extra blankets. My future roommate comes up to me after a week and proceeds to tell me I owe him $200 for rent to stay in the garage. I ask him why I'm paying more than he does per week to sleep in a room without heating/air, a bathroom, and filled with cigarette smoke fairly often. He says that he and the other roommates talked about it, and they decided I couldn't freeload, and I needed to get that money to him as soon as possible. Now, he wasn't the one who paid the bills. I asked the head roommate about it later that day, and he told me there was no discussion about freeloading involving me, and that I could basically pay him $50 for the month if I felt like it. I did pay him gladly, and that was that. That is beyond cheapskate. No, that is swindler. That's grifter. I'm glad this person actually communicated. That's part of how some people get away with some of this stuff, saying that they represent someone else. If you communicate and get everything out in the open, this person avoided getting scammed. Story 3. My stepdad is the biggest, most embarrassing cheapskate I know, so here are a couple of examples of the most extreme things he does. Reuses paper towels by hanging them out to dry in my mom's front yard. Uses free tires off of totaled cars whenever one of ours needs replacing, which if you think this is a good idea, I've had 2 near-fatality experiences to prove otherwise. Rewashes my siblings' disposable swim diapers, again hanging them out to dry in the front yard. Uses washcloths as toilet paper and only flushes for number 2. Puts bricks in the toilet tank so it uses less water, leaving the toilet constantly smelling like pee. Refuses to use AC at any time while living in South Florida and counts down from 3 whenever anyone opens the fridge. Refuses to purchase gifts for anyone unless they were procured at a garage sale, meaning he often leaves my mom and his kids high and dry for birthdays/holidays/anniversaries. Constantly pulls over on the side of the road to dumpster dive. His favorite finds are a pair of Tempur-Pedic slippers, ew, and a wooden futon, which I'm afraid to be in the same room with. When a door hinge broke in one of my siblings' rooms 5 years ago, he refused to pay for a replacement and instead hung up a shower curtain, still there to this day. Tries to sneak home food from buffets after paying for his meal with a coupon, and my personal favorite, asking patrons at a restaurant if they're finished with their food mid-meal so he can take over the leftovers. Basically, if your frugal actions are making the people in your life embarrassed or uncomfortable, you've gone too far. That is cheapskate behavior. That is all unbelievable. This guy saves and dries out paper towels, but he uses washcloths to wipe? Ooh, that bathroom smells more like pee. Yuck. Yuck. They probably spend more doing laundry on washing that nasty washcloth than on toilet paper. Story 4. A cheapskate only cares about cost. A frugal man cares about value. By the way, best succinct description of frugal and cheapskate. My mother is cheap. She'll buy worthless junk that she doesn't need because it's on sale. She'll buy a broken microwave from a garage sale before just buying a proper replacement. When asked why, she'll scoff and say, "Well, this one was only $5. A new one is at least $100. Great. Now we've got two barely functional microwaves. Since this happened, the garage sale one is broken fully. Shocker. Our original issue isn't solved, we've got less counter space, and you spent $5 for this." Yeah, saved so much money. I honestly believe she thinks cost has zero correlation to value whatsoever. Like every single light bulb is made exactly the same, so any price difference is just the company ripping off dumb people. I can't trust her to buy anything. Like I'll send her $20, ask her to pick up something we need since I can't, and I know for a fact that she'll have brought the awfulest version of the thing even if I tell her exactly what it is. I've actually told her that come Christmas/my birthday, I don't want anything, because I'm planning to move and don't want any extra junk making that harder. Story 5. Someone who is frugal will spend money ungrudgingly, but choose the cheaper option. They spend altruistically, but cautiously. Someone who is frugal will live moderately, and their penny pinching won't negatively affect someone. They're willing to buy new things if the older version of what they're replacing is functionally useless. Someone who's frugal does not pride themselves on their meagerness. They're often saving money for a reason, i.e. they have not much to spend, they're saving for unavoidable home improvements, etc. Whereas someone who's a cheapskate will spend money begrudgingly and always choose the cheapest option. When they spend, it's often hedonistically and overcautiously. Someone who's a cheapskate will live within the bare necessities of life, and their penny pinching negatively affects others. They're never willing to replace anything. If it bears some resemblance to its original self, then it's not only good, but good enough despite being functionally useless. A cheapskate prides themselves on their meagerness. They're not saving money for a reason other than to say they're saving money. Story 6. To paraphrase Oscar Wilde, a cheapskate is someone who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. Yes, you might save a penny on the price of fuel if you drive 5 miles out of your way, but what does that cost you? Time you could be doing something else? Relaxing with your loved ones? Enjoying yourself? Yes, you could cook all your meals at home, but what about the social aspect of the occasional dinner out with friends? What about that nice juicy steak cooked to perfection by a professional chef? No, you'll have the chicken, even though you don't really enjoy it as much because the chicken is cheaper. Frugal is knowing where you can cut down on things that just aren't worth it, so you can enjoy the things that are, even if they cost a little more. Cheapskate is when it's all about the cold, hard cash value. Some really good insights into the difference between frugal and cheapskate. There was a sadly passed away author, Terry Pratchett, who made the Discworld series, who had a great passage, if you can look it up, on the Sam Vine's Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness. It fits well into this conversation. Story 7. My grandpa, after he served up ice cream he bought, would smooth it out the best he could and carve his initials into the top of it to make sure none of his kids took more than he thought necessary. He also would fill almost empty jam jars with water, shake it up, and drink the mixture just so he wasn't throwing away any food. He did a lot of stingy stuff, but these two stories stand out the most to me. I forgot another good one. My mom, as a kid, got a nasty gash on her knee, and my grandpa, after examining it, determined it needed stitches. Instead of doing what a normal person would do and take her to the hospital, he turned on the stove and heated up a sewing needle and was going to stitch my mom's knee back together with sewing equipment before his wife intervened and made him take my mom to the hospital. This, I don't think, was because he was cheap, which he definitely was, but he also has this attitude that if you can do something yourself, there's no reason to pay for someone else to do it. Story 8. Where I work, we keep the cups for drinks behind the counter. When you order a drink, we hand you a cup. This one guy reaches over the counter to grab a cup and walks away to fix the drinks and let his wife pay. I charge them for it. With tax, it's $1.50. The wife ordered water, but since I gave him a cup and he grabbed an extra, I didn't charge them the 22 cents, including tax, for the water. He filled the cup he grabbed for her with soda. When he saw the receipt, He flipped out and wondered why I charged him for the 2 regular drinks when his wife wanted water. He later finds a hair on his food that couldn't have belonged to any of the employees working that night and refused to leave until he got a refund for his drink. He found super long black hair when everybody who came even close to his food was either blonde or had no hair. Story 9. My deity damn stepmother. I don't live at home anymore, thankfully, but she drove me frickin' nuts. We would keep McDonald's cups from when we went out to eat, because there are germs, we can drink from them at home so we don't have to waste water washing clean cups. And then she'd freaking reuse Ziploc bags that had freaking meat in them and other gross, not reusable things. I'd go to do dishes and start throwing away or recycling the Ziploc bags, and she'd get onto me and pull them out of the trash and wash them and reuse them. I ate at home a lot less after that. This one is more of a personal affront to me because I don't like when my foods touch, but it's also frugal and cheap. She would make oatmeal whenever we bought ground beef and brown the beef with the oatmeal and then freeze said oatmeal beef combination because it stretches the beef further. Pardon me for not liking spaghetti and oatmeal, Linda. I am all for finding ways to reuse plastic so it's not just single-use plastic, but not at the expense of where it once held meat. A friend of mine does reuse plastic bags like that, but only as trash cans to hold off the compost-style garbage that would rot or smell. Story 10. So you know how when you have a get-together where people would be drinking, most people bring a few drinks to share, right? Or contribute in one way or another? Bring some drinks, or a bottle of booze, or mixers, whatever. I buy a huge bottle of alcohol, my friends bring ice, and we ask our notoriously cheap friend to bring some orange juice so we can all enjoy some screwdrivers. Upon the arrival, this mother friender pulls out an 8-ounce recyclable Polar Spring plastic bottle that he filled like halfway with some orange juice. And it should be noted that this friend of ours is by far the most wealthy of all of us. Yeah, cheapskate. Story 11. It's time to pay, and the restaurant can't split the bill. If everyone's meal ranges no more than $2 to $3, then it should be no big deal for everyone to throw in an even amount. Had a person turn what could have been an even split into a half-hour adventure so that the pay was fair. If I get cheese sticks and you order steak, then that's one thing. But do not waste everyone's time with petty nitpicking. It's usually friends who are bad with money that do this too. They don't save their own money when they should be, so they have to make sure they get their due returns whenever someone else's cash comes into play. Story 12. For me, purposely getting yourself destitute so you can live off of others. My cousin's ex-husband was a social worker. He would tell stories of how he would have his clients, families he was caseworkers for, that were on the cusp financially sign up for the highest cable/satellite package available. He would then lump that into their monthly expenses to push their outgoing to incoming money ratio high enough to qualify for all sorts of government programs, welfare, Section 8, etc. He also made a comment about how he couldn't wait to knock up my cousin and get her to quit working so he could get her on WIC. He was an obese, lazy, pervy piece of scum, and I was never happier when that marriage fell apart. Thankfully, with no children. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this scheme that they're trying to pull off. There are a lot of people that genuinely need help, especially now. There's a lot of people. And this is the kind of person that everyone likes to rally against and say, oh, they're cheating the government out of this. This is the person that gives all those other people that genuinely need help a bad name. Story 13. Frugal people go above and beyond saving money. They logically limit expenditures and try to maximize income. Cheapskates illogically limit expenditures and try to maximize income, and probably 75% of the time they're doing this to subsidize a personal expense. Limiting your monthly expenditures to save up for a trip, college, or a slush fund for some unknown expense down the line is frugal. rationing an entire family's worth of electricity, water, and single-use products so you can blow $450 on, apart from your hobby, cars, or a cheapskate. Story 14. When you eat out with a group of friends and instead of splitting the bill equally, you pay for only your meal and justify that you only took a few pieces of a side dish, so that doesn't count. When you transfer money to your friend and you count it right down to the cents instead of rounding it up because you want to save that few cents. When you badger your friend to buy something to share even though your friend is not interested just so you can split the cost. That's right. Curse you, Claire. Story 15. My wife refused for years to buy a Costco membership, while simultaneously forbidding me from buying things like bread and milk from anywhere but Costco. She'd insist that I ask a friend with a membership every time we needed the smallest things. Her mom started giving her a membership every year for Christmas, so she'd stop demanding that she take her to Costco twice a week. Story 16. Frugal is compromising and cutting out extra things in your life. Cheapskate is squeezing pennies on things you actually need. For example, washing all of your clothes at once, maybe once or twice a week, and using a dollar store detergent is frugal. Wearing your clothes into the shower to wash them and you at the same time is cheapskate.
Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 17. My grandpa will buy a roll of paper towels, like the cheapest single roll you can get, and then have my grandma rip off each sheet and cut that into fourths for napkins. Napkins that are already napkins cost like 5 cents more than the roll of paper towels. It takes her like 2 hours because she's becoming arthritic. Nobody else sees why this is stupid. Story 18. I had a babysitter who I think crossed the line from frugal to cheapskate. She would only shop at Goodwill, and if her daughter wanted some shoes, she'd have her put the old shoes on the rack, put on the new shoes, and walk out the door. Also, most of her daughter's coloring books were picked up while dumpster diving. Like half the pages were already colored, but we still used them. Story 19. This was when our city was transitioning out of plastic bags, and so getting a plastic bag was 5 cents. She bought something and asked for a plastic bag with it. Upon checking the receipt, she noticed the 5-cent charge. This was outrageous, so she lined up at customer service for 20 minutes to refund the plastic bag. This is just the tip of the iceberg, too. Story 20. I knew a guy once who'd buy a package of light bulbs or batteries, take the fresh ones out, replace them with the dead ones, then return them to the store claiming they didn't work and get his money back. That guy hadn't legitimately bought light bulbs or batteries in years. Story 21. When you avoid your share of the bill. When you inconvenience others to save money. When you go to even moderate lengths to justify either one of these behaviors. Frugal folks make personal consumer decisions that have long-term money-saving benefits. Cheapskates pass the bill on to others. Story 22. Frugal. Ordering cheap items on the menu. Cheapskate. Ordering anything on the menu, then purportedly claiming you forgot your wallet, you'll pay me tomorrow, your credit card doesn't work, your puppy ate your money. Story 23. Frugal is doing a year's worth of research to buy the best-priced, longest-lasting air conditioning unit available to the average consumer. Cheapskate is not letting anyone actually use it. In Texas, in the summer. Dad, please, I don't want to perish of heat stroke at 20 years old. Story 24. Frugal. Saving the 3 ketchup packets that the restaurant had put in your carryout bag, but that you didn't need for that specific meal. Cheapskate. Grabbing 5 dozen ketchup packets from the condiments counter at a restaurant and taking them home so that you won't have to buy a bottle of ketchup for a few weeks. Story 25. When Jeff Bezos drives his old Honda Accord around after becoming a billionaire, he is frugal. When he pays his warehouse workers such awful salaries that they have to go on food stamps and tracks their movement down to the seconds so that taking a bathroom break causes them to get a write-up for underperforming, he is a freaking cheapskate. Story 26. I have a relative who is too cheap to pay for trash services or to buy a dryer, so she takes all of her trash and wet clothes over to her father's house. This is a woman with a family and a house, not a starving student or something. So, yeah, that. Story 27. Frugal. Buying your clothes at second-hand stores and looking for gently used and well-taken-care-of items. Cheapskate. Wearing hand-me-downs with stains and rips in them because they still cover you. Story 28. My brother and his family hit a Dairy Queen drive-thru one day, and they were giving away free cones. The DQ guy asks my brother how many cones he wants, and he says, just one. He has his wife and 2 kids in the car, and when his wife asked him why he only got one, he said, y'all can share. We still give him guff for this, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. Story 29. My mom has an ex-boyfriend who still lived with his parents at age 40 despite having a PhD and running his own business. For my 18th birthday, he got me a book that I had to give back because he had only borrowed it from the local library. Do you think that's part of the scheme, being so obnoxious and mooching off of someone else's membership that someone else is going to buy it for them? Probably, unfortunately. Story 30. When you demand retail staff use their staff discount on your purchase so you can get a better deal. It's already 40% off of outlet price. Outlet price is nearly 50% off of retail price. Now you want me to get fired so you don't have to pay $25 extra? Utter thunder idiot. Story 31. Wasting large amounts of time and energy in order to avoid spending a few bucks, instead of realizing that their time and everybody else's has a value attached to it. Example, spending 1 hour trying to find and then walking to and from free parking instead of paying a small amount and getting it instantly. Story 32. My dad in his younger years was definitely borderline cheapskate. Not quite as bad as my grandpa, his father, but he learned his lesson that some things are worth paying full price, i.e., don't go cheap on toiletries or feminine products. In his defense, he is a single father and was raising 3 girls, so he did the best he could, but he never made that mistake again. Story 33. Frugal is finding the things you want on sale at one store. Cheap is finding the things you want on sale at 15 stores. You waste way more gas than the 50 cents you saved on pasta, Nancy, especially since you put frickin' mid-level gas in your freaking car. Story 34. When it crosses the line to discomfort for the sake of saving money. Example, frugal, turning off your AC when you leave the house. Cheapskate, not running the AC at all to save. Story 35. I know a guy that while ordering in line at Chipotle would ask for extra chicken, but just enough where it's not considered a serving of double chicken. Come on, man. Story 36. When a customer orders a single espresso in a large cup and then uses an entire carafe of milk at the condiment bar. Bonus points if they bring that beverage back to the register and want it microwaved. Story 37. Frugal is taking tons of extra ketchup and sauce packets at a fast food place. Cheapskate is taking the industrial-sized toilet paper rolls from the bathroom at said fast food place. Story 38. A friend of my mom's was married to a dude who would follow her into the restrooms to count the squares of toilet paper she used. I mean, it was some other thing besides cheapskate, but it definitely crossed that line as well. Story 39. When you visit your nephew on his birthday, and instead of just buying him a meal at Wendy's, you get a burger, split the small fry among the 5 of you, and give him a can of A&W from the car cooler. Story 40. I think it's been touched on already, but the best advice on the subject was from my dad. He told me saving money is like drinking, and you become an alcoholic at the same point you become cheap. If it interferes with your personal life and personal relationships, dial it back. Story 41. It's oddly difficult to pay for a meal for a frugal person. They aren't into that. A cheapskate will not only accept a free meal, but will claim not to have their wallet when the bill comes. Story 42. Future in-laws use the plastic grocery bags as trash can liners. Sometimes they use them to store bagged ice from the store. I no longer drink my drinks with ice here. Story 43. I know it's 90 degrees Fahrenheit outside, but the air conditioner costs money to run, says my roommate/landlord who makes 6 figures living in a ranch house. Story 44. My grandma once bought me and my sister used underwear from a garage sale for Christmas. The worst part? She has a lot of money. My dad was mad. Story 45. My take is that frugal is refraining from a purchase to save money. Cheapskate is trying to avoid paying for something. Story 46. Frugal. Not eating out at a restaurant. Cheapskate. Eating out at a restaurant, but leaving a $0 tip because, sorry, I can't afford to tip. Story 47. Frugal is watching what comes in and adjusting what goes out accordingly. Cheap is squeezing nickels while dollar bills fly out the window. Story 48. Refusing to let professionals install electricity at your new mobile home, so instead running the hot wires underground through shallow hand-digging ditches. Story 49. When you waste significant amounts of time to save money. I'm thinking of those people who drive across town and wait in a long line to save 5 cents a liter on gas. Story 50. I know a wealthy lawyer who refuses to take showers at home because he doesn't want to use hot water. He goes to his local YMCA instead. Story 51. Friend of my mom who had money and was in no way struggling at all would rinse off and reuse coffee filters. You know, the common ones that cost like $1 or so for a 200-count box? Story 52. Frugal is taking half your meal home from a restaurant to eat for lunch tomorrow. Cheapskate is taking half your date's meal home from a restaurant to eat for lunch tomorrow. Story 53. When you own a restaurant and refuse to buy a knife sharpener or working air conditioner and your employees pass out from heat stroke and almost cut their fingers off cutting raw fish. Story 54. Boyfriend always forgetting his wallet when we'd go out to dinner. We're no longer together. A well-known cheapskate. Story 55. Frugal is ordering water. Cheapskate is ordering water and a bowl of lemon slices so you don't have to pay for lemonade. Story 56. Agreeing to play credit card roulette at a dinner, but then throwing a hissy fit and demanding another shot because your card was picked. Story 57. When the collection plate is passed at church, a wealthy parishioner puts in a $5 bill and asks the usher for $4 bills back for change. Story 58. Being frugal is about taking more control over your money. Being a cheapskate is your money taking more control over you. Story 59. When you're 49 years old, make well into the mid-6 figures, but still need to crash at any friend's house within 100 miles of where you're traveling. Story 60. Frugal is getting good things at good prices. Cheapskate is getting bad things at good prices. Story 61. Serving meager portions of food when company comes over, like just enough to keep people from expiring. Story 62. When it becomes about trying to use others' money/resources in lieu of your own, rather than making the most of your own money/resources. Story 63. When you become selfish. If you're careful with your money, you're frugal. If you're selfish with others, you're a cheapskate. Story 64. Ordering food for delivery and only tipping enough to make your order an even number, like a $19.65 order leads to a 35-cent tip because you can't afford more. Story 65. My mother-in-law stayed at a Hampton Inn. She kept the styrofoam coffee cup and kept it in her car trunk to take on trips. She thinks that she's now entitled to free coffee at Hampton Inns worldwide. Story 66. Complaining to a manager about perfectly good food, service, whatever, just to get a comp meal, handout, or coupon. I know a person who does this and it makes me sick. Story 67. When your attempts to be frugal end up somehow negatively affecting others. Story 68. When the time you waste or the quality of life you lose are worth more than you save in money. Story 69. When you ignore a cost/benefit analysis and always opt for the cheaper option. Story 70. A guy I work with only brings in lettuce on his lunch break and then eats other people's leftovers. Story 71. when you start arguing expired coupons. Story 72, one ply. Story 73, low flow shower head. Take right off with that junk. Story 74, in terms of the toilet, if it's yellow, let it mellow, so let urine hang out in the toilet. Story 75, when you buy toilet paper so thin, you end up touching poop twice a week. Story 76, dollar store mac and cheese with powdered milk. Story 77, when you have money, but don't spend it on things you really should spend money on.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.